3, 2, 1, go. All right. It's been a while, but welcome back to the Iron Cowboy CrossFit Podcast. This is episode number 4. We're talking and kind of recapping our hunting seasons. If you guys listened to any of our earlier episodes, we had Preston Cross and Dustin Moses on. We kind of talked about some hunting and fitness and general questions regarding those and how fitness has helped our passion for hunting and the outdoors. And kind of today we're just planning on recapping some of those and kind of telling some stories and talking about how fitness could have helped or hurt some situations that we had. So thanks for being on the show again today, guys. We got Preston and Dustin back, so thanks for being here.
Yeah, appreciate you having us back on.
So just to kind of recap, the people that didn't hear the first one, we talked a lot about, not even specifically having to be CrossFit, but how training and, exercising throughout the year can help you pursue your passions, like ours being hunting and, being able to do those things successfully and responsibly, not only for your own safety and health, getting up and down the mountain, but also being able to, responsibly harvest the game that you're out there chasing. So, we're probably just going to kind of jump into some stories and go from there and roll with it. So, Creston went on a couple hunts this year for deer. We'll start with those. Creston, if you want to feel free to jump in. I don't care if you go mule deer or whitetail first, but let her rip.
All right. I don't know where to start. Both were unsuccessful as far as the meat in the freezer or horns on the wall is concerned. The mule deer hunt was fortunate enough to spend another year up in the high country with my dad. We had some good deer picked out early, and for whatever reason we just weren't able to turn them up when the season came along. Did pass on some marginal bucks early that we probably shouldn't have. Had some bad luck later on in the season, but and I think we spent a little over 10 days up in the high country just getting after it. And, we came home, like I said, without any meat in the freezer or horns on the wall, but it was just an awesome trip, amazing country. And like I said, I was able to do it with my dad again for the second year in a row. So that's kind of where that was at. Whitetail-wise, my dad and my buddy Mike and I traveled out to Iowa this year, and again I was unsuccessful. My dad killed an old heavy whitetail. It was his first whitetail with his bow. I think this was our 4th or 5th trip, and the first time he was able to get her done there. Mike got a really nice whitetail as well. My luck, mine used all up last year, but I had a really nice buck come into about 15 yards, and after sitting in the rain for 3 days, I wasn't able to see through my peep, so he ended up walking.
What caused your peep to have issues?
So I've got a lens in, or not a lens, a clarifier in my peep to clear up the pin in the animal, and sitting in the rain for 3 days, that water puddled up on top of the clarifier, and just it was just a blur when I drew back on him.
At least you took the ethical way, and that's really respectable there. So
I did. It was a battle.
Good for you.
I tried to figure out any way I could to, be able to take that shot, and it was raining at the time the deer was standing there, and I just didn't feel comfortable taking that shot, and he was standing in some tall grass, and was worried about the recovery more than anything with the rain and the tall grass and not being able to follow a blood trail or anything. So I let down and watched him trot off up over the hill and out of sight there.
Yeah, I think it's a good point actually to start with this story, both of these stories, just because there's not. Last time we were on, we talked about pretty much all of our success or the hunts that we had success with in the previous year, but so much a big piece of hunting is not being successful and going out time after time, coming back empty-handed or missing your opportunity, just like your whitetail. You said you had him at 15 yards and one little thing with your peep doesn't work out, and that's it, it doesn't work out. But that's hunting, and I guess that's, a big reason so many people are drawn to it is because you got to be in the right place at the right time for everything to kind of line up in your favor. And I'm sure you can kind of talk more about this, Creston, but just the difference in those two hunts physically, as far as the demands go, are kind of stuff I would like to hear about, and I'm sure some listeners would like to hear, because if you've never gone high country mule deer hunting, right, you might not understand the physical requirements it takes to get everything up there: food, pack, rifle or bow, depending on what you're hunting with, and then even the let's say the patience. And I know there's some probably physical demand as far as sitting in a tree stand or some type of blind when you're whitetail hunting that people don't understand too, especially around here. We don't have a lot of whitetail in southwest Wyoming, so not many people get that opportunity to have that experience and go from there.
Yeah, so the mule deer hunt, we were, roughly 5.5 miles and a little over 4,000 feet in elevation gain from the truck. The whitetail, we might have been 500 yards from the truck, if that. Like I mentioned, the whitetail hunt, it did rain for 3 days. Much more, both of them are a mental battle, but, to sit in a tree for 12 hours and, I guess maintain your focus, not fall asleep, not be, playing on your phone or whatever the case. I didn't have any service where I was at, so I didn't have a choice. Did get a couple naps in there, but it is totally different. But that whitetail hunt is one of the funnest hunts I go on. Yeah. But I wouldn't pass on my mule deer hunt either. The high country itself is very physically demanding, as Coop said. It's also a mental battle. Do you sleep in? Do you get up? Do you hike to the next ridge? You've got the weather as a factor. The thunderstorms rolling in. We did have some pretty good lightning this year when we were coming out, which was pretty terrifying, being up in the rock and the granite. I think Dustin was actually able to see that storm pass over the top of us as we were moving out. But
yeah, what's crazy is you hear about people being like, well, I'm not afraid of bears, I'm more afraid of lightning. I'm up on top of the mountain. I don't think people understand, like, you're so high, so close to those clouds, how close you are to that lightning, and it's like pretty alarming when it's cracking off right next to you.
It is pretty crazy too. I'm sitting roughly, probably as a crow flies, 2 or 3 miles away from Creston, and I could just watch that thunderhead roll over his head, and I was fine. And you always kind of sketch out, because you are in the the peaks. Your tent is on the highest peak. Maybe sitting in 1 or 2 trees if you're lucky, and of course you got metal poles. And you always think that's the safest place because it's out of the weather, but you're kind of an antenna sitting on a high peak. And so it's amazing more people don't get struck by lightning and have issues and have problems up there. Definitely
have you
something.
Heard of anyone doing that? I don't know if I've personally heard a personal story of someone getting hit up there.
No, this year I read a few stories on people and having trees like get hit like next to their tent, and there was one that a tree had fallen during a storm like that, and like it hit another tree on its way down, but was legitimately 6 inches above it, the guy's tent, when they woke up. And so, it's pretty crazy, but that's, some of the challenges and some of the reasons why we're there, you're always looking to, test yourself. I personally love to go to the high country to test my limits and, see, when it comes to injuries, things like that. How am I going to, fix, this issue or, I guess get through any kind of problem that I might face, and that's fun, and that's honestly like why I like hunting as much as I do. It's just that life test. So
yeah, there's definitely certain levels of I can't speak for the Iowa hunt, but a high country hunt of anything, mule deer, elk, whatever, where you have levels where you're uncomfortable. And I think that's a good application to a CrossFit workout in a sense. Is there's times when you're like hate what you're doing in the middle of your workout because it is so hard, it's so uncomfortable. It's like, do you push through that? It's in a way different, obviously, you know, but when you're going up a hill with your pack on and all your shit in your back, it's like, do you keep hiking, you know, or do you stop and take a rest? You know, we can talk about some stories coming up later that
and we do
have
talking
a good
about
story. Those, but like I definitely just think there's levels of uncomfort, whether that be, you know, sitting cold in the, I know Creston's mentioned before, you know, how cold it can be sitting in a whitetail stand just because you're not moving and generating any energy in your body. You know, that's just being uncomfortable, and how long can you stay uncomfortable? And
right, do you get out and you know, go back to the truck or go back to the hotel or whatever the case. Kind of funny story there. So that first day in Iowa, I mean, it was nasty, raining. Like I said, I didn't have any service, so I didn't have the option of getting out of the truck, or going back to the truck. But my dad got so cold and so miserable, he went back to the truck there, ate lunch, got some dry clothes on, and he went back in the stand. I think he was in there 10 minutes, and that deer walked by, and he was able to put an arrow through it. So, you know, had he stayed, you know, an hour longer, he talked about not going back to the stand. And as it turned out, it was a pretty good choice for him. That buck walked by 30 yards. Like I said, I think he was less than an hour in the stand once he got back in there. So definitely the mental aspect there is how long can you stay out in it?
Yeah, for sure. I'm not gonna keep jumping ahead here with stories, but those are good. You know, I think my problem with the deer stand would be not wanting to eat the whole time, because I'd just be on a snack, and I know rappers and stuff that I know I'd be making a lot of fucking noise.
These guys took me on a trip a few years ago, and it was my first experience in a tree stand. I loved it. You know, just like I say, you know, as a mountain hunter, I was not prepared. These guys taught me a lot as we got down there, and you know, meeting other hunters in camp and stuff. But it's fun. It's truly a very, very fun experience. I mean, it's cool to see like all the different animals and things you'll see, you know, just by sitting patient and up in a tree all day. But it gets old, you know, and you freeze. Like, you know, these guys all had muck boots on their first trip, and I took a pair of high country, you know, like leather boots. And the first 2 days, I seriously thought I was going to lose my toes because my feet got so cold. And so it's cool to see. I mean, it was a great experience. I think that's why Creston keeps going back, because it's fun. Is it, you know, any kind of, you know, high country hunting or anything? No, but we like hunting. I mean, in general, and like all different aspects of it. It makes it fun to just try different ways and different things and hunt different animals. Yeah. As we know, Mr. Goose Hunter here, we got a professional goose hunter in our presence today.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far, but no, I mean, jumping into that a little bit, it reminds me of the same stuff you guys are talking about. I mean, me and some buddies went on a goose hunt in Missouri, you know, and it was a snow goose hunt, so there's, you know, lots of blinds, filled blinds. You're laying out in the filled blind, you know, watching all these birds fly overhead, and not always are they coming down, but it's very similar as far as night one. I went out with kind of like my typical hiking high country setup, which would be like, you know, a medium layer pant, like a good wind stopper coat that was lightly insulated, but nothing super heavy, because it was relatively warm. I mean, it was 45 degrees, but with the wind blowing, it was just cutting right through me, and I was shivering like literally the whole time that first night. And I was like, this is fucking awful. Like, I am not coming back out here without the rest of my stuff, you know, because it's no fun to sit there.
Yeah.
Because we were sitting there, and that first night we didn't get much action.
And you can't get out of it.
No, because the second a bird, you know, if there is a bird in the area coming overhead, you're supposed to lay there and stay still and not move until it's time to, you know, kill them. And it's like, all right. I was definitely the rest of the trip maximum layers, and it made a world of difference, you know, being prepared with food, drink, water, and then just staying warm, because You know,
That's crazy.
You can, and it's like that's the last thing I thought going in there when it was 45, 50 degrees that day. Sun was out. I thought I'd be fucking cold and just shaking, and I was. I was like, all right, let's go back because I need to go get more stuff. And this isn't fun if I'm freezing.
And that's exactly what my dad did on day one. I mean, he was so miserable he couldn't take it anymore. Went back to the hotel, put some dry clothes on, ate a little lunch, and like I said, he hawed around about going back in, but he decided, he was there for a reason to get
paid off. That's good.
Get back in there, and he barely, got back in time before that buck come walking down the trail.
Yeah, that's good. He made the decision to get back in there though, and it paid off for him. But if you guys are getting rained on too, that's a whole nother cold. To being wet and then any breeze.
And it wasn't just rain. I mean, at times I would consider it, a torrential downpour.
Yeah.
Like I've never sat there or sat through something,
like that.
So heavy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But I mean, really, the big thing, the moral to that whole thing is, when it's your day, it's your day, and you're gonna have those years. And I've had a lot of years myself of unsuccessful hunts, and those hunts are as good as any hunt that I kill on. But yeah, I mean, his dad, it was his year. Was it Creston's year? No. I mean, it just, even though that deer even walked in front of him as a whitetail and, in his stand, I mean, it just didn't work out. And it's fun, I mean, that's why we do it. And you just hope you're going to have that year. And, you always want to repeat like what Creston did last year to kill a mule deer of a lifetime. And, it's not always going to happen. For some guys it does, like back to back. But I mean, everybody has it unsuccessfully hunts. And, it's just when it's your time, it's your time.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, when it's your time, but a lot of it is the time you put into it. My dad's case, I think this is, was his 4th or 5th trip.
Trying to get one out.
Sitting in the stand. We very rarely come out. We usually sit all day. So think of the amount of hours. Waiting for that opportunity, and when it happened, he made it count. So,
yeah. Well, speaking of your time, Dustin, I think you had maybe it was your lifetime best buck. I can't remember. Total gross, yeah. So lifetime best mule deer this year. Why don't you tell us about that?
I had a really good season. It's kind of cool, just like you see, Creston's really close to me. He and I hunt, very similar country, real close. It's just, but, one drainage makes a big difference. But yeah, I mean, early summer, I love my summer scouting. I love, it gets you kind of into that mode, gets you into shape. You can go when it's fair weather, sleep under the stars, without even having a sleeping bag and things like that. And those are fun trips. During one of those trips, I did, come across, I like to say it was just almost a deer of a lifetime. I mean, maybe not as high scoring as like something Creston killed last year, but I mean, he has everything that I would ask for on a mule deer, has the mass that you die for, his great typical frame and a few cheaters. I mean, honestly, perfect, and the one that, you always kind of, dream of killing. So I did find him early summer. Come hunting season, everything just, the stars aligned, and I can't tell you how many times I've done that same thing. And, you watch a deer, all summer, and then, come hunting season, either another hunter ruins it, or, maybe the deer just doesn't show up. I mean, there's just so many times I've been in the high country and, year after year, it doesn't pan out. I was very fortunate this year that, it did, went in a few days before it opened, tried to locate him and found him. And then, just kind of, bided my time, waited for, the opener. The day before was a pretty funny day, like I woke up and couldn't find the deer all day, but I just sat in that glassing point because the day before I had seen him and he just never did turn up. Well, I had seen a few little bucks and some does and stuff, and, probably 30 minutes before dark, the deer walked through like a 10-foot by 10-foot little opening. And so, I got real excited and I was like, all right, he'll be there in the morning. It did make it a little nicer. I was pretty fortunate with, working out at the gym. We have a lot of good people around us. And one of our good friends, Johnny Boylan, I mean, I guess it's easy to, I don't know if we should be saying names or whatever, but Johnny's a good guy. He, we were working out, about a week before the hunt opened, and I kind of told him like kind of the scenario that this deer was putting me in, and Either it was going to be a 750 yard shot, or I was going to have to, get in his front porch and go kill him at like 30 yards, because it was, just kind of the way the terrain made it, it was going to be a very challenging hunt. So long story short, he did beg me to take his rifle. He's got like a $5,000 rifle that he's custom built, and he's got a real nice rangefinder. And I don't like taking people's things. I don't like borrowing stuff, but he convinced me, actually kind of forced my hand in the whole deal, and I ended up taking his gun. We went out and shot it before we went on the trip, but he got me zeroed in, and the gun was solid. So I've got a 1,000-yard gun. I felt confident with it. We shot a rocket at 850 yards. It was probably a 6-inch diameter, and I pinwheeled it. And so it was like, I definitely knew that I had the capability to kill this deer at a distance if I needed to. So I have his rifle. I'm prepared for that long shot. The day before, the deer walks through this opening, and it's like a 350-yard shot. And I was like, oh, this is going to be great. So go to bed that night. You don't sleep, of course, when you're, on something like that. The sun comes up, or I guess the sun doesn't come up. About an hour before the sun comes up, I'm sitting on my perch just waiting for that deer to be somewhere near that little opening that I saw him. And lo and behold, as the sun starts peeking out, I see something walking through that opening, and I look down with the binoculars, and it's an orange hat. And it was like, are you kidding me? Typical. This is always my luck. The guy's going to shoot the deer right below me. And, I watched him all summer, but it's, it's hunting, it's public land, and it's general, So, in Wyoming, it's general season. Anybody can buy the tag, and, so you get a lot of traffic. But anyway, watched that guy, got real nervous, started shaking, all that work, everything going into the whole thing, and you're gonna have that bad luck and maybe watch somebody kill a deer. But I was prepared to take a shot just in case that deer did step out, by the guy or somewhere near. I was hoping that I'd see him before he did. About an hour later, after finally calming down, the guy was still kind of in that area doing circles, and he definitely knew that deer existed. But he couldn't locate it. I couldn't locate it. And so I decided I would get a little different vantage point and look into a little different basin, and left all my stuff, at my backpack and all my stuff on the hill, walked up the hill, a couple hundred yards, had my bipod, had the rangefinder and things like that. But as soon as I crested the hill, there the deer is, just sitting in an opening. And so, it was just luck was on my side. I, killed him at 300 yards, and, the rest is history. But that was probably one of the greatest moments in my life, just a great, good feeling. But I got to say, 2 weeks later, I took my 12-year-old son deer hunting, and, he got to go on his first high country hunt. And I got to say, that was by far, his hunt was more special to me, just to see my kid get up there in that country and get experience, what we get to do. So yeah, my kid, his hunt was awesome. That's where I will go into like CrossFit and why we do what we do. Yeah, when you're packing for one guy, and you're 7 to 10 miles in, yeah, you got a 65-pound backpack, and you can manage. I took my 12-year-old boy, and as all of us these guys will know one day, Creston's got some young daughters that, are not close to that age yet, and Cooper hasn't worked on the kids, but you guys will be there. But my son, week before we headed out, I checked all his gear and started looking, and, of course, the kids grow so fast, he outgrew his boots. So we had to go to the Sportsman's Warehouse, and, I tried to find boots, and of course you can't find any boots. We ended up having to buy him women's boots. And, it was hard, because how that is breaking in boots,
First time out, breaking boots, feet feel like shit later on.
And I knew that he was going to be in for one there. And then backpack-wise, he's got a couple day packs, and, of course, I've got this Badlands day pack, and I thought, this is going to work for him because, it's almost short enough to where it'd sit on his hips. And I would hope, I was just hoping that he would carry, 25, 30 pounds of his own stuff. But that backpack was a piece of junk. And, by the
Sorry,
time...
Badlands. Send us a new pack.
Yeah, it just wasn't built for, a kid. And, I actually got on Badlands this year because I sell their stuff. And, yeah, they don't offer anything for a kid. And so, little guy, we get all the stuff. We pack it all up. We get to the trailhead at night. And I think, was it you that told me to sleep in the truck?
Probably.
I think I was planning on walking my boy in that night, and I think Creston got on me. He's like, man, just sleep it off and just wait, which was smart. So we slept in the truck. This is my kid's first experience sleeping in the truck. He's never done anything like this. So, like, even in the truck, he's worried about every little noise, and he's like, Dad, what was that? Dad. And he didn't sleep, But either way, I mean, I got a little bit of sleep. We woke up that next morning, throw his backpack on and his boots, and I had a little medical kit full of blister Band-Aids and stuff because I knew what we were in for with his feet. We realized that backpack's not going to work with everything in it, and so I have to take all the stuff out of his basically and put it in my bag, and so now I'm at a 100-pound backpack. We start up the trail, and I feel good, and I'm fine. I'm a little slow because of 100 pounds, but little man's doing pretty good. We get about 2 miles in, and I could see he's starting to walk a little funny. I said, "Now, you got to make sure you tell me when you're getting these hot spots or anything, so I can be proactive with it, so you don't get blisters." And he waited too long. We got a couple miles up the trail, and he's got feet full of blisters. And so we stopped and had to Band-Aid him up and get him all taken care of a few different times. I think we had to do it 3 or 4 different times up the trail, and it was a pain. And you don't realize how hard it is on a 12-year-old, when you go into this country, and it is just such steep, nasty stuff. And he was tough. He kept asking, "Dad, how much further?" And I'd tell him around the corner, and that was 4 hours later. We'd get to the next hill. "Dad, how much further?" And
Dad, how long is this corner?
yeah, it was. I felt bad, but he's a trooper, and I asked him many a times, "Dude, you ready to go back? I'll take you back." But he wanted to get up there, and so. It was pretty cool. It was, midday. We finally got pretty close to the top, and we took a little break. And I point at where we need to go, and he looks at me. He says, "Let's go, Dad." And I was beat. That 100-pound backpack just whooped me, and so that little bugger ran up the trail. He was running on that adrenaline, and gosh, he was yelling at me, "Come on, Dad! Come on, Dad! Come on!" And so. Definitely looking at that going into next year, I'll probably hit it a little harder at training, because that was hard on me. But we did get in there, got the tent set up. Once again, first experience in a tent. So we got him all set up. We, unpacked the tent, and I was tired. I was whooped. So we went in, took a quick nap. He didn't nap, of course. He was worried about the butterflies and the birds that were making all the noises around us. But so we took a little nap. We woke up, ate a little lunch, and I had seen a pretty good deer earlier in the year in this basin, and so it was right where we were camped, right below it. And so I told him we needed to go look in that basin to see if that buck was in there, and so we took a little different, I guess, route to look into that before we headed to where we wanted to be for the night. And as we're making our way around the corner, this is just hours after we got in there, I look down and I see a buck bedded like legitimately 100 yards below our tent. And I was like, huh. And so I put the binoculars on it, and I could see it was not a monster buck by any means, but a mature, nice 5x5. And so I show my son, and he looks at me and says, "Dad, I'm killing that buck." And I said, "You sure you don't want to find something bigger?" He says, "Nope, I'm killing that buck." And so I'm never going to tell my kid, I want him to have a good experience. I want him to, understand what it takes to kill the big ones, and, work for it. So he decided that was his, and he was going to kill it. And so we spent a little time, got him all set up, and one shot, one kill, kills this buck. And as we're walking over to it, and I said, "Man, you happy? Or you, a little upset that you didn't even give this area a chance?" He says, "Nope. I was right below the tent, and I'm not walking any further, Dad."
Yeah, that's hilarious.
So that was a really, really cool experience. We had a good fun time with that, and I appreciate everybody taking the time to listen to that story, because that was a lot funner than even my hunt of a lifetime with my deer and my deer of a lifetime. But it's so fun to get these kids into the outdoors and let them experience that, and hopefully I can continue that with them. So
yeah,
I think that's what it's all about, is getting those kids involved and making sure they enjoy the outdoors and everything else.
For sure.
There.
So like a few things have come to my mind listening to your story, Dustin, and kind of going backtrack what Creston just said was, your kids are watching you guys do this stuff. I know many times Creston's daughters and Dustin's sons have been in the gym watching these guys work out, and train hard, see them sweat, see them do all this hard work in the gym. That's one thing. And I know like Dustin's sons are, doing push-ups at night and stuff like this. And Creston's daughters, are getting into gymnastics and participating in the CrossFit Kids program. And, they've been nothing but good influences as far as for their kids to see and leading by example. But then just goes to show, too, like, if you guys were not in shape enough to do those things, like hike up that hill and carry your kid's stuff and your stuff in the pack, that's not to knock on people that can't do those things, but that's one experience less that your sons would have because you're incapable of doing that due to your fitness or, something else. And then I think it also kind of goes down just being prepared for the situation. Your first hunt or your hunt that you're talking about first was, people might not realize like how many times you guys are often, high country mule deer hunting and going in the summer multiple times. It's not opening day comes. I mean, so for some people it might be, but for most people that are serious about deer hunting and getting up in that high country, it's not opening days here, time to get out the boots for the first time, try to go up to the mountain for the first time and not know anything. You guys are putting in a lot of free time during the weekends or whatever all summer trying to scout, find different areas, find new country, find specific deer or find a good buck that you want to try to hunt with, hunt down that year and stuff like that. It's a lot of time and effort, not just mentally, but physically as well. And being prepared for those situations the best you can, someone might say something about like, your gun or whatever, like you were talking about using Johnny's rifle. And to me, that's no different than making sure you're in good enough shape to go up that hill is you go, I need a rifle that I'm comfortable with will make a shot if needed. You need to be in shape enough if needed, to get up it and to come down it or to give the experiences for your kids. So that's pretty cool to hear and to hear how rewarding it was for, what most people would think of. Like people obviously listening to this can't see your deer that you shot, but your deer is incredible. It's right up there. Like Creston's deer last year was freaking amazing, and then you kill this deer amazing deer this year. And it's like, holy crap, you guys are getting it done, But the mass on that, and even Azra's deer, your son's deer, you sent me the picture of that. It's like, are you kidding me? Like, what the heck? You guys got a honey hole that you need to share that's not that hard? Because even, I've never actually heard that story beginning to end, and I guess I didn't realize how far Azra had hiked.
It was bad.
For that. And then for him to just be confident and going, yeah, I'm good with that one. I'm tired of hiking. But, it's funny.
I think we talked on the last podcast, if you've ever tried to keep up with Dustin, you know exactly what Azra went through. And when he said, nope, enough's enough, I'm not going any further, there's a reason why he wasn't going any further.
Yeah. So kind of just transition here into my deer real quick, just because I was lucky enough to get a deer this year, and Dustin was a key part in making that happen. This is kind of more of the humor of the episode, I guess, would be my deer. So I was in the midst of selling a truck, and I needed to get it detailed, and I went out to this town here, probably about 20 minutes from where we're living, and it was getting detailed out there at this lady's place that details vehicles, and it's a smaller town, and Dustin gave me a ride out there to go pick it up when it was finished, and it was like, sun was going down. It was probably, 30 minutes before dark maybe. And he's like, holy shit, look at that deer right there. Slams the brakes. I'm like, where? It's like, we're on the edge of this town. Out the passenger window to my right is BLM public hunting land. To the left is people's yards. I'm like looking over here to the right, like, where's this deer? And he's like, right here on my side. Like, look over. There's a pretty nice 4x4 in this girl's yard eating off the tree. I'm like, holy shit, that is a nice deer, And I don't think much of it because I didn't know, in relation to where we were for BLM or hunting land, like that public land that we could hunt on. I'm like, well, that's cool. And he goes like, dude, you should kill this deer. And I'm like, I can't hunt here. He's like, yeah, you can. Pull up your Onyx. I guarantee right across this road is public land, and that deer's probably been living over there. Of course it'd be coming in to eat, the fresh cut grass and trees or whatever.
He's eating apples.
Yeah, in these guys' yard, crab apples. Anyway, so it's like, whatever. And he's like, I'm serious. I'll I'll go get my gun right now. Like the tag my general tag I already bought was good for this area, and it was actually like only a 6-day season for that area.
Yeah.
And it just happened to be like the second day of that season, and I was like, holy crap. I'm not killing this deer tonight, Dustin.
Yeah,
I'm psyched out, and then so we pick up my truck and go back, and deer's still there.
He actually crosses the road into the stuff he can hunt at this point.
Yeah, when we come back from picking my truck up, I'm following him out, and the deer, there he goes right across the road to where we assumed he was, pretty much living. So I go home and think about that night. I'm like, man, that was a pretty nice deer. And my schedule's not, I'd say it's not where I can take multiple days off at a time, and it was a weekday, and I'm like, you know what? I think I'm gonna try to go see if that deer's over there on the public land tomorrow, and just see. Obviously, if it's in this lady's yard, I'm not gonna shoot it. It's not allowed, but if it's where it needs to be, I'm gonna try to shoot it, because I was on Onyx, and I trust that software is up to date. And sure enough, I go out there the next morning with my dad, and we're sitting there in the truck right on the same road, and we're glassing. Don't see anything really, and then sun starts to come up a little bit more, and I get out and walk on this ridge because there's like a little hill kind of on the other side of the road, and all of a sudden you can see the deer just kind of trotting right there through sagebrush, and I'm like, oh, there it is. I radioed to my dad, and I'm like, that deer just ran right there. I don't know if you could see it. And sure enough, probably within the next 30 minutes, him and the doe that he was bedded with there in some sagebrush get up and start trotting out, and I had about 150 yard shot, and it's what seemed like, I'm guessing, less than 3/4 of a mile from the tree it was eating. The night before, and I was like, that's the easiest hunt I'll ever have in my entire life. But that's the joke, is I killed the town buck.
Sometimes you got to do it.
Yeah,
so.
But you know what? It's been great eating, and it was completely loud. So that was just cool. So I was like, that's one thing I guess probably other people, if you're in other states, don't get. If you're in Colorado or something, there's so much private land or other places.
Yeah, we're very fortunate.
That was an extremely unique opportunity where literally I was not far, and I was on legal public land and able to, harvest a mule deer for the year and put some meat on the table.
The funny thing about this whole story is this is probably the first time he's talked about it since, because he's kind of been he feels funny about it. He's like, man, I just feel so weird shooting that pet. Yeah. But, it's hunting, and it is what it is. If it wasn't him, there was actually 2 or 3 other trucks out there. Is that not correct?
So after we killed the deer, we were gutting it out and cleaning it up and getting it ready to take, load up and put into the truck to go to the butcher and get it, processed. But as we were kind of doing that, someone pulled up on a 4-wheeler, and they were doing the same exact thing we were, and they were no further than we were, and they'd probably seen that same deer, I'm guessing, the way they were kind of acting. And between that section from Rock Springs to where that was at there's a lot of good deer around this area. That's why most of them are draw areas, or but people harvest good mule deer all the time out here, and just like that. And that's what's kind of nice, is you don't have to be, I was back to work, and I'm back to coaching CrossFit class at noon that day, I think.
That was awesome.
Coached 5 a.m., went out there, came back, missed 6 a.m. and 9 a.m., and I was back for noon class, which is also extremely rare, but
it was funny. I think it was a good hunt. It was fun to see him actually, get to do that himself, because he doesn't have a lot of time. Yeah.
So and then I was lucky enough, to go on. These guys invited me last year, and I was too stupid to take them up on their offer, but to go out on an elk hunt, kind of where they typically go together during the year for general elk if they didn't harvest one somewhere else or draw a tag or something. And it was pretty fun. I got to say I had a lot of good experiences. It was fun to hunt a new area for me. I typically go hunt, by my family's cabin for general, and, have been pretty unsuccessful as of late. And then these guys, Dustin was like, why don't you just come hunt with us again this year, and, we'll get you on something good. And it was real fun. The first week we went out, we went up there the first night I got there around 3, and he's like, well, we can go out and hike right now. Season actually didn't open until the next day. Yeah. If I'm correct, right? Yeah. So we went out, and cows open, but we didn't have cow tags. We had bull tags, and It's like, let's just go hike up this ridge,
Actually, I did have cow tags, but I mean that wasn't the intent.
Yeah, you also had a bull tag.
Yeah,
we were going to blow the hunt on a cow tag.
Yeah.
So we get up there, and we were some of Dustin's buddies from Utah that are acquaintances of his that hunt with him every now and then, and we hiked up this pretty good ridge. It's like, all right, that was a good ridge. Like, I thought you said we were going up a little hike. We get to the top of this thing, I'm soaked in sweat.
This is where the conditioning and like working out with him every day. I'm pretty good at that mountains, and Cooper just walked he ran up that mountain. It was ridiculous.
Oh, I was also trying to live up to the title there. Dustin's known as the mountain goat of the group, so I was like, I'm not gonna get burned too bad up this hill. But
and he smoked me.
So we get up there, and it was cold. It's starting to. I don't know if it snowed that weekend yet, or it was the next time it went out. But it was temperatures were starting to drop. It was, I don't know what the date was.
October 15th.
Yeah, October 15th.
So,
October, that would have been October 14th.
I think we were walking in snow that night.
Yeah, there was a light skiff of snow, and it was. Temperatures starting to drop. So getting up the top of that peak, it was cold. And we were sitting there, and sure enough, Dustin, never fails to let his preseason scouting help him out, and he's like, there's always elk up in this ridge, and we get up there, and sure enough, here we pull up get to the top, and it's like you can kind of see where the elk have been moving from the light, the light snowfall, and we get up there, and there's a pretty small herd there, and Dustin's buddy's got a cow tag, and he really wants to blast one of these cows, and Dustin's like, hey, there's a few of us here, you can still shoot these cows tomorrow at the same time we shoot a bull, so.
And there was a good bull in there.
Yeah, and there
was
a good
solid 6-point bull, so.
It's like, I'd appreciate it if you don't just blow this herd right now, because if you shoot a cow tonight, this herd's going to scatter, and who knows where they're going to be, the upcoming days.
Maybe 2 drainages over.
Yeah, and that's, extra work and stuff like this, and we could just, leave them alone for the night and come back tomorrow, and they're probably not going to be far. Well, the kid was a little upset with us and decided not to. We hiked back down, have dinner, and go through the next whole thing. And Dustin goes, well, I'm going here tomorrow. You guys can go right back up after that same herd. I guarantee they're going to be, they're going to be close. Go here. I'm sure they'll be there. So sure enough, we go there, and we weren't right on top of them, but we were there. And there's, a couple situations where, kind of like Dustin was talking about with his mule deer hunt, we probably had a couple opportunities, like a 750-yard, 700-yard shot. My rifle, I'm not comfortable taking that shot with. And then the kid I was with was not really comfortable shooting that far either. So we're like, okay, well, let's, we'll wait. They were kind of feeding. It was early morning, and they were just kind of feeding, moving slowly. We tried to make a move on them, and they got away, and kind of went over the ridge and kind of thought, oh, fuck, they're gone, So then there was kind of a deciding moment. It's like, okay, we're kind of at the bottom of this canyon. Do we hike up to the ridge that they just crossed and see if they're still there, or do we call it a day? I wasn't ready to quit because, that's the most elk I'd seen in a few seasons. I was like, I want to go after those guys. So I kind of talked to this kid and, following me up the hill. We go up the hill, and he's struggling, and I'm not doing this to knock him, but I'm just saying he was definitely struggling, and there's a difference between when you're going up a hill and you have to stop 8 to 10 times every couple hundred yards, or you stop 2 or 3 times, type situations and you just end up killing time and, potentially losing those situations that we talked about earlier, where it's like you have a short window of opportunity, and if you miss it, you're going to miss it, and it could have been from hiking too slow or hiking too fast. You never know, but we get up top and we sit there in glass. I can't see him. Can see tracks all over the place from the snow, but can't seem to track him down. Get on the radio and kind of talk to the group that's still at camp. Can't get a hold of Dustin because he was on another ridge, and I really would have preferred his advice, just because I know he's very familiar with that, where we were at and what he thought we should be doing. Well, I just kind of just like, I'm going to look over this ridge here for a second, walk up to this different ridge, look over, and sure enough, I'm not sure if it was the same herd or not, but I'm assuming it was, but there was, I don't know, probably 50, 40 elk, all just down in this little bowl, and we were sitting damn near directly on top of them at 150, 185 yards, and they had no clue we were there. And I told the kid I was with from Utah there, I was like, this is our chance. If we're both going to drop an elk together at the same time, this is it. Because there was a few bulls bedded down, there was cows all over the place, and it's like, let's do this. But like I said, it was like 150 feet or, a straight down drop. And then the question came into play of, okay, well, what are we going to do to get down to those? Not only safely because there was snow on the ground, but then, in a timely manner, because at this point it is now going on 3 or 4 o'clock. And it's like, if we're going to do this, it's going to be dark. Because we were still probably 3.5 to 4 miles from the campers. And he, I guess, I'm not going to say bitched out, but gave me every excuse in the book not of why we shouldn't. And, being unfamiliar with that area, I would say my confidence was definitely lacking on what the best route would be, because coming back out of the ridge we had to drop down to get to those elk if we were to kill them would have been extremely vertical, probably all fours doing everything you could if you were to go straight back out, or we could have hiked out the bottom to the other drainage, and it's like super challenging as far as knowing where we were at. We didn't have service. I didn't have a good enough GPS system there, and the kid I was with wasn't confident that he knew where we were at either. So anyway, long story short, opted out to not shoot those elk and kind of kicked myself for a full week because of that, because I had a 6x6 lined up that I was super stoked about trying to get, and Dustin did everything he could in his power to help get me in that situation, and I wasn't confident enough to capitalize on it. But then he was like, okay, let's next time let's go out. We're going out again next weekend, come up. Creston was going to go out this time because he was unable to go the first week, so we went back out the next week.
Even before we get to that, though, I do want to get into that, the whole, growing up as a kid, going out with my dad, and it was funny, you go down even south of Rock Springs here in the desert, and, my dad would always tell me I wouldn't shoot anything in that canyon if I had to. And, as a kid, I was always like, we're right next to it, Dad. Why you wouldn't walk down that little hill to go get him? And, it's just kind of funny. And, the mentality of a lot of people of, I wouldn't shoot it here or there or whatever. I have a complete different mindset. If I'm going to be in the high country, it sucks for Coop. I do feel bad for him because actually I felt bad for him the whole time because, he wasn't put in a good situation. Had we been together, it would have been done over because, you kill them and then you worry. If I'm hunting that country, I don't worry about where they're at. I'll get to them. So it was a bummer deal. I really felt bad, that he had to be put in the situation and talked out of, harvesting that elk. And, good things happen, maybe it didn't happen that weekend, but the following weekend, stuff panned out really well. But, he knows now, when we talked even at camp, like, just shoot, we'll get him out. And,
Yeah. So. And I think that comes down to, obviously I know what you guys are capable of. And like I said, if Dustin was with me, I don't think it would have been any question of what we did. It
would have been dead.
It would have been over. But just having, I train with these guys every week and see what they're capable of physically. My confidence doesn't lack in them. And the kid I was with that day, seeing him struggle to come up to that ridge that we were at in the first place with just his half-empty pack on with snacks and waters, and really dying. It's like, this guy's not going to be much help helping me pack out a whole elk, and it's going to be a long, long road. And if he's even willing to, my greatest fear was me shoot this elk and him go, okay, have fun.
Which probably would happen. It does. It's
see you back at camp.
And it's like, I guess if it were him shooting and he wanted to, he was persistent and I was hunting with someone, I would have been like, go ahead, shoot it. We'll help you, type deal. I feel like if you're in a hunt with someone, you should always be there to be there for some support at least, even if you're not the one shooting. But anyway. Yeah, the next weekend went super well. I was able to bring my dad up, and Creston was up there, and we went up to kind of the similar spot. Creston and Dustin went off together to a different ridge, and me and my dad went to a different ridge from the weekend before, just because we didn't, we had no idea. Dustin was up there a couple days before us, and he actually went down there, and some guys killed that same elk that I was looking at. So that was kind of a bummer deal to know that elk got harvested by somebody else just because I passed it up. But no, we hiked a couple big ridges. We had some horses that helped a ton, especially down in the flats. down in the bottom of the drainages and stuff. But I get up on top of this ridge, and it's I don't know 10 maybe 10
in the morning.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm gonna hike up to the top of this. My dad stopped.
And it's like
lower.
a $2,500 foot straight up climb. I mean, he decided he was gonna just rip it out. So.
Yeah, I just want to get up there and see. It's new country still for me, and I'm trying to kind of figure out where I'm at in the country, and then also just figure out, see if I can get any glass on some elk, because we haven't seen or been seeing much that morning yet. And then next thing I know, my dad, I fell asleep, took a little nap on the hill there in the sun, and then next thing I know, my dad's panting, come up the hill. My dad's in fairly good shape for his age. He doesn't actually exercise outside of his job, but his job is pretty physically demanding some days. And anyway, I hear him huffing and puffing, and I wake up, and he's like, Dustin's on the radio. They're calling Kristen. He's like, they're on the radio, and they want to talk to you. I'm like, all right, hey guys, what's up? Well, I look over, we're over here. I'm like, well, I don't know where here is. We're looking over, we're trying to glass them up on these ridges. Finally find them. They're like 3 ridges over, and it's a long ass ways. And
we've been watching them all day.
Yeah, they've been watching me hike. They're up there top glassing, taking
Cooper
naps.
take a nap.
And I'm like, okay, you guys are a long ways away. And he's like, well, we got some elk over here. I'm like, yeah. And he, worth hiking back for, a herd of cows. And I'm like, no, there's some bulls. We saw a bull right here. It's yours if you want them. It's not huge. It gets 5x5 or 5x6. You should hike back over here. We'll let you shoot it, I'm like, fuck. All right. So tell my dad, like, hey, we got to go back to the horses and go back over there. This is actually the ridge that we went up the weekend before with Dustin when we were
night
before opening day that we saw some elk on. And I was like, I know what we're in for. This is a steep hill.
Yeah.
And get up there, and my dad's like, I'm not sure I'm going to hike up that with you, but I'll see, if I do, I'll just hang out at the bottom or whatever. Well, I start, trying to go as fast as I can.
And the moral to the story is he's already climbed a 2,500 foot peak, and, you go from the basin in that, where the rivers are or the creeks, and then you go straight up every time. And, so now he's on walk 2 of that, doing that same elevation, and so go ahead.
Anyway, I'm huffing and puffing, trying to get up there in time. I'm trying to radio the whole time, saying, hey, have the elk moved? Is it worth hiking up this thing or not?
We were taking a nap.
Yeah, these guys now are taking their nap. I can't get any freaking radio contact. It's like, all right, this is gonna kill me. Anyway, go up this hill. Sure enough, I walk up on them sleeping. They wake up, oh, where you been? We've been waiting for you. It's like, oh, whatever. I've been hiking my ass off for the last hour and a half. Get up there. It's like, where's the elk? Well, we don't know. We took a nap. We start glassing and finally find I think it was a different herd we actually ended up going after.
I think so, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But the original bull that they kind of radioed me over for, I think it kind of moved on. There were some hunters riding up the bottom of that drainage on horses and making all sorts of ruckus.
They spooked him out.
Yeah, and then next thing I know, my dad's still coming up the ridge, so that was kind of funny to see. As he's like, oh,
he did make it, and
yeah,
that was
he
mad
did
props.
make it, and it's like, man, you're pretty tough for doing that. But I can't believe, he got all the way up there and was able to glass, and it was cool because he was able to see, talk to you guys, see what you guys have been seeing, but then also see the herd elk that we ended up going after. So Dustin and Crescent find a different herd and some still kind of across the way.
So you got to go down and back up.
Down and back up.
Down the hill I just walked up and back up an even steeper hill. And we couldn't see any bulls in the group, and we were just seeing a bunch of cows. And it's like, hey, you think sure there's a bull in there? And Dustin's like, I guarantee there's a bull in there. It might not be this monster bull, but I guarantee there's a bull in that group. But the trees, the way they were in that trees, is harder than heck to see them. And you could just see some cows kind of moving every now and then, between some openings. So it was starting to get dark again. It was like, we had our opportunity window, and Dustin goes, okay, well, it's now or never. We're going to drop down this and go, or we're not. Make the call. I'm like, I don't know. I'm pretty freaking tired already. I just walked up this hill, and I was like, you know what? Let's just do it. And I was confident. Justin gave me support. He's like, oh, I'll go with you. So we bail off this hill. Creston and my dad stay on the hill that we were on to kind of glass them up for us and make sure that they weren't running away as we were on our way up. We get to the bottom, and those horses, that group of horses and those guys that we said were kind of right at the bottom are sitting there waiting in the bottom, and we just hike right past them. So that was kind of fun because we literally walked not even 100 yards right past this guy, and it's like, how's it going? Type deal. And he was going to sit there and wait, and we were not waiting. We were going to go, attack it. And
which, once again, that comes to conditioning. Like, how many people are willing to walk up those steep mountains? That's the difference between not killing and killing. So
yeah, and I can
definitely was that night.
Yeah, for sure. And those guys were sitting there, and then they weren't in necessarily the wrong spot, and they may have had one come out eventually. But I don't know. The elk, the way they were moving, were kind of moving up and over. I don't know.
But
if
that's a good area, and they know to sit there. And I mean, a lot of times it happens, but you want to be proactive and you want to just
Yeah,
hit it.
and it was, a matter of moments, really, because we were going up this steep face covered in snow, using all fours at a lot of times because you couldn't kick your boot into the side hill hard enough because it was so slick from the snow.
You were starting to lock up,
and I was starting to cramp. My quads were starting to cramp bad, and I was like, man, I am like on my last leg here. And finally, you hear Dustin or Creston get on the radio and say, "Hey, they're starting to walk, but you're right there. You're not spooking them. You're close." We kind of peek up over this ridge, and we're super, being super quiet. You can't see or hear anything. We move up the ridge just a little bit, and then all of a sudden, you could see the cows start to come out of this little opening or the tree line there at the ridge. And it's like, all right, get your, Dustin packed his gun. He set it up right there, and he's like, all right, here's our chance, And sure enough, here comes like a small 5x5 rag. Kind of a freak, actually.
It was a cool bull.
Yeah, it was a cool bull. Coming out, and he's like, this is your shot, and we were actually in a lot better place than we probably could have even planned, but it ended up being like a 350, 400-yard shot.
I think I don't think it was 4.
Yeah, and, a couple shots, and he was down. First one hit him, the second one was just more security because I didn't want him to take off on me. And then it was just over that fast. I mean, it was a matter of 3 minutes. We could have been in the wrong situation, not being there, not hiking fast enough, or, something like that, or not being in shape enough to kind of settle down and make a shot, type deal.
I mean, it was awesome. So, it really worked out.
Yeah,
and, you only had the one or 2 days at that point and that was one of the big reasons we wanted to make sure, Cooper hadn't killed an elk in a while. And, I think he only had that day, I think the next day you were having to leave.
Yeah, we had pretty much a half day.
Yeah,
I pretty much had to be done and back that night. So
it was kind of a goal for Crest and I to help him as much as we could to get him on an elk, and it really worked out, and it was fun. About killed Creston on the way out. I think that it was a tough hunt, and his feet kind of gave up on you, didn't they?
Yeah, my body, my lungs, everything else was fine, but my feet were hamburger.
Yeah, and it's crazy how physically tasking it is on you just to repeatedly do it. And I think that's the one thing, for most people, it's like, okay, you could probably tell anyone, like, let's just use White Mountain, for example, pretty steep mountain. You could hike up that and tell them you can't do that. And they probably can. They could wheel their way through it. But then if you said you have to hike down it and go back up, oh, wait, and then one more time.
Yeah.
They'd probably like, what? And then your body, and then it comes down to, is your body trained to recover from it? And then nutrition on the mountain, or have you been eating to fuel that? You know what I mean? Obviously, I was running low on some electrolytes probably, and just water in general from when my quads started to kind of cramp up on me going up. But I can tell you coming down, once we got the elk to the bottom of the hill and kind of quartered it up and got it on the horses, I still had to carry the head. And the head, not light, but not as heavy as what the horses were packing. And my middle back, by the time we got back to camp, I can remember it felt like you couldn't stand up straight, because your back's so tight. And it was like, good Lord, thank goodness for the horses.
Yeah.
But I think even because we kind of had to drag him down the hill for a while to get him to a spot where we could quarter him up. If it weren't for Creston and Dustin there, it literally would have been a next day deal for me, where I would have had to let it sit and overnight, just because
happens.
just because there's no way physically I could drag a whole elk down. This situation where the hill was so steep and the terrain it was on, it wasn't even where you could really stand up straight to even get it quartered out. It was so steep, But I think without these guys there to help me and do that, and them being in good enough shape to help do that, it would have been
And your dad was a big help with the horses and stuff. That was fun.
Yeah, no, it was a great hunt, and something I'll never forget for sure. So, I think that's kind of wrapping it up for hunting stories. If off the top of my head,